America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bless you. Next, we'll call over a roll call, starting on my right.
Councilperson Josh Aaron. Councilperson Brent Meyer.
Mayor Jimmy John King.
Councilperson Craig Anderson.
Councilperson Jeremiah Holgen.
Approval of tonight's agenda. Anything
There's nothing
additional? Anything here? A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Approval of council meeting minutes of April 11th, 2023.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second then.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that also carries. Then finance and budget. Got the accounts payable and the additional accounts, and then any questions, we've got the finance director, Carla. We have a motion to approve accounts payable. Do we have a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion on any of it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that will carry. That'll take us right into motions of general business. Tonight, the first item on motions of general business is something we've all been waiting a year for. The audit presentation.
It makes me feel so well.
You are welcome.
Thanks for having me tonight. I'm Andrew Ferletti with Smith Schaefer, and we were contract performing the audit for the city of Stewartville for this year ended December 31st, 2022. Tonight we will walk through the PowerPoint. The financial statements are still in draft form. We are waiting on the GFOA to get us back to us on anything corrections or anything that is needed. So all the numbers in here tonight will be finalized, or will be final numbers that we are discussing. Typically it's just some wording that needs to be adjusted. So any numbers, if anything does major change, I will come back and present those changes to the council. All right, moving ahead there. So our audit report on the second one is a clean, unmodified opinion, which means we believe everything is fairly stated in accordance with GAAP. It is the highest level of assurance that you can receive on a financial statement. As I did mention, it is still in draft form. We did also include in our audit is the municipal legal compliance. We did not note any exceptions in our testing there. There's about 7 various tests that we do, various categories: conflict of interest, public indebtedness, bids, claims and disbursements, depository public funds. We did not note any exceptions in any of our items that were tested. We also are going to apply for the 2022 annual comprehensive financial report to the GFOA again for the award. We will submit that once we do get final wording on the prior year financial statements if there is any corrections related to that. Also, we'll issue our 2 letters, the internal control, same as we've had in the past, segregation of accounting duties. You guys do not have adequate segregation of duties, so the council is one of those internal controls as they do review those monthly bills and are a level of control in that accounting function. There was no single audit required this year, as their federal grant dollars spent were less than $750,000, and then the city has received the GFOA Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting in each of the last 15 years. That is including the 2021 one. We're making an assumption on that, and once again, we will apply for the certificate in 2022. Next, we'll just briefly talk about your governmental funds here. So you have the general fund, which is the main operations of the city. There's 6 special revenue funds: the library revolving loan, retail revolving loan, civic center volunteer fire and first responders economic development, 3 different types of debt service funds, and then 2 capital project funds. Looking at the tax capacity up there, the city has grown quite a bit through their tax capacity. So tax capacity about 6,642,000, up about 1.2 million from the prior year. So there has been city growth, and then also increases in property value, which impacts the tax capacity. It's almost doubled since in the last 10 years, since 2013, when you were about 3.4 million. So there was steady growth for the past or the 2 years before, from about 2015 up to 2020, and then it's jumped up the last couple of years. Property taxes collected, just under 4.1 million in total property taxes collected, up about 390,000. Property taxes collected about 49% of the total governmental revenues. Governmental revenues is going to be anything coming in beside your utility fund collections coming in there. The levy was increased about 390,000, just as much as our collections were. About a 10% increase in revenue coming in from your property taxes, which brings us to our tax increments. So just under 110,000 in tax increments coming in. There's 2 active TIF districts with Helcon and Geotech. There was an increase in 2022 as that property was revalued in 2022 and had higher values. LGA on slide 7 then, local government aid represents about 13% of the governmental revenues coming in, just over 1,082,000, the increase from about 26,000 from the prior year. LGA is going up to 1,117,000 in 2023, so about a 35,000 more coming in from LGA. If we look at the main funding sources of the city there, we do have the first grouping there is your tax increment, which is a small portion of the revenues coming in. Same with investment income, charges for services, that's from your township collections for the fire, and then the pool and the various charges for the parks. Property taxes, as you can see, is the largest portion there, about 4.1 million coming in. And then the far right is your LGA. So you can see that that gap has been widening as everything has been costing more. The city has had to increase their levy to continue to make up for the increase in cost, where the state's portion has remained relatively consistent over the 10 years there. Total revenues were up about 1.2 million in the current year. Majority of that was through Arakawa Estates, which is not presented on this chart. Getting into the expenditures here, so the general government expenditures, so this is going to be the mayor and council, services, supplies, travel and printing for cost. There was an increase this year of about 64,000 up to about 856,000. Equals about 21% of the total governmental expenditures, excluding any major capital outlay and debt service. The majority of that increase is we completed the comprehensive plan for about 38,000 in the current year. Wages were up a little bit, and it was also an election year. Public safety and transportation, so we saw a jump there of about 136,000, about 1,165,000 spent on public safety, which is the law enforcement, fire protection, street lighting, and transit. This is the most significant expense that the city does have. About 28.3% of your expenditures are related to this category here. Most of that increase this year was related to the police contract. As we'll get into that, there's not much for a capital outlay, so if we switch to the main categories of the public safety expenditures, you have the law enforcement contract. You see the jump there to about 685,000, up about 123,000 from the prior year. The fire protection was up about 10,000 due to some truck repairs, and then the street lighting was up about 12,000. The fire protection costs were funded through property taxes of about 118,000, township contracts totaling 100,000, and then the state fire aid, which is passed through, of about 72,000 in the current year. Public Works on slide 13, 529,000 spent in the current year, up about 23,000 from the prior year, represents just under 13% of the total governmental expenditures. The increase was primarily in the current year was the sidewalk for Lake Florence, and then some street maintenance and seal coating a little bit higher than the prior year. Library expenditures on slide 14. The blue is going to be your operational expenditures. The gold up top is any of the capital outlay. So total expenditures about 347,000 in the current year. The decrease of about 36,000 represents about 8.5% of the total governmental expenditures. Most of that decrease is for some prior year benefits paid out in the prior year benefits paid, so the operating expenditures were down a little bit, and then the fund is funded by property taxes of about 297,000, county contribution about 64,000, and then also in the current year, a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act went into this fund of about 200,000. The recreational expenditures, so this is the civic center, swimming pool, summer programs, adult softball grounds and parks. Total expenditures about $814,000, an increase of $115,000 in the current year. Most of the increase is related to salaries and utilities, as the park wages were up about $40,000, pool wages up $20,000, and then utilities are up about $15,000. Park and recreation expenditures, so they do have some revenues coming in to offset some of those expenses. So the park brings in about $17,000 in revenues, spends just over $405,000, up about $70,000 from the prior year, as I mentioned, due to some increase in some wages. Pool brings in about $205,000, expenditures, excluding capital outlay, about $297,000, so that is up about $40,000 from the prior year due to wages and utilities. And the adult softball is pretty break even, brings in about $7,000 and spends about $6,200. Economic development expenditures on slide 17, about $408,000 spent in the current year, down about $103,000. This is the revolving loan, TIF expenditures, and professional services. The CETA contract, the tax abatements, the pass-through grants, and then the TIF payments. So TIF payments were up about $50,000. Most of the decrease in expenditures is there's 3 revolving loans in the prior year, and there's no new loans in 2022. Governmental fund expenditures, the categories that we just talked about, as I mentioned, the greatest expenditure for the city is in the public safety department, followed by general government and then recreation. You can see that those categories have remained relatively consistent over the years. General fund budget to actual, so the first grouping there is going to be your budget, the second column is going to be your actual expenditures. So each of the main departments there, the general government was about $33,000 over budget, mostly due to some engineering and comprehensive plan. Public safety pretty much right on budget. Public works about $161,000 under budget due to repairs and some street maintenance, and then recreation over $56,000 due to some pool utilities and park supplies. So total general fund expenditures are under budget by about $65,000. General fund revenues were over budget by about $120,000, so the city did about $180,000 better than budget for the year. Other funds that do have budget actuals, the revolving loan fund, there is no expenses as there is no new loans in the current year, so they are under budget about $38,000. Library under budget about $22,000 related to the capital outlay and book category. Fire department was over budget about $43,000, mostly due to some repairs on the fire trucks. Civic center about $10,000 over budget, and economic development under budget $30,000. Moving on to the fund reserves then, so the general fund reserve on slide 22, total unassigned fund balance of $720,000 and a committed fund balance of $1.3 million. So total unassigned and committed fund balance of about just over $2 million, equals about 68% of the current year expenditures. Current year expenditures, $3,014,000, up about $325,000. So even with the increase in fund balance, expenditures were up, but still the city is in a very healthy position as they have funds of about 68% of the current year expenditures on hand. Library fund reserves, we saw a big increase in the current year. Most of that is due to the $200,000 the American Rescue Plan Act fund is sitting in this fund balance. So as mentioned, the library funds funded by property tax about $297,000, and they have the total fund balance at year end of about $461,000. Up about $221,000 in the current year. So if you take out the $200,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act, this fund still operated at a surplus of about $21,000. Civic Center Fund on slide 24 then, decreased the fund by about $10,000 in the current year, about $51,000 set aside for the Civic Center. Most of the increase in expenditures this year was related to the utilities and repairs. The fire and first responders fund balance on slide 25, they're at a deficit of about $38,000. Most of that deficit was created due to the truck repairs in the current year, and then back in 2017 was when they transferred $239,000 to the fire capital equipment fund. The revolving loan fund has total fund balance of about $332,000, loans outstanding of about $124,000. There is no new loans in the current year, and the cash available at year end was about $328,000. Economic Development Fund balance has a fund balance of $229,000. It's funded through property tax collections of about $168,000, and has a healthy fund balance there as well. Capital project fund balance, so this is gonna be about 29 different funds that are grouped into one column on the financial statement. They have a fund of just under 2.1 million, up about 790,000 from the prior year. The major capital improvements this year were the three projects, the 2021 project that was finished, the 2022 CIP, Bear Cave Estates, and then half of the fire truck. So in total, those funds spent about 2.7 million, the revenues were about 3.2 million, and then there was some new debt issued for half of the fire truck. Getting into the debt service funds then, so the city currently has 3 bonds that are outstanding. 2016 improvement bonds paid off in 2026, there's about 995,000. 2017 is paid off in 2027, 128,000 outstanding on that. And then the 2019 is paid off in 2030, has about 270,000. So this is the lowest debt that the city has had for the special assessment bonds. If they've not had to bond for their project in the past, they've been able to fund with their capital reserves. The general obligation bonds on slide 31, then there is 3 general obligation bonds that are outstanding. The 2012A swimming pool is paid off in 2026, has about 510,000. The 2020A tax abatement of about 307,000 is paid off in 2038, and then the 2021A refunding has about 1,111,000 is paid off in 2033, and that refunding in the prior year saved about 128,000 in actual payments. General obligation utilities, so the water and sewer have a portion of these bonds that are outstanding. They're paid off in 2025. They are being paid timely, and they are being supported by users of the water and sewer charges. The nursing home debt is paid off in 2026. It's got about 595,000 left on that. And then there is a new fire truck loan. It's about 334,000 outstanding, is paid off in 2026. So the future debt service payments for the 5 years, they're pretty consistent at just under 1.1 million for the next 3 years. And then some of those bonds are paid off, drops to about 900,000 and then down to 200,000 from 2027 in the future. Net pension liability, so a favorite topic to talk about since the city participates in PARA, which is a multi-employer pension plan that is underfunded. Anybody that participates in that plan has to record their share of that underfunding based on the contribution that is paid in. This was measured as of June 30th, 2022. The markets were not good as of June 30th, 2022. So everybody's share of that net pension liability went up as their plan assets were down, which increased your liability. So up about 1.3 million. It is an actuarially determined liability. It is not a liability that the city can pay off. It is just adjusted to the numbers that the actuaries do provide to us. Same thing here with the net pension asset. So this is the opposite with the fire relief. They are overfunded and you have a net pension asset recorded. But once again, as of 12/31/2022, and the markets were not great. So your net pension asset decreased to about 74,000 from about 470,000 in the prior year. The city has 3 enterprise funds. The first one there is the water fund. So the water fund, there was no rate increase in the current year. There was an increase in revenues of about 50,000, but that was related to the water availability charge that was there. So the rates stayed the same, brought in about 50,000 more as the availability charge. So they did operate at an excess of about 455,000 before an $81,000 transfer to the general fund as a payment in lieu of tax. So the water fund cash in the blue there has a very healthy position at about 4.2 million. That's up about 523,000 from the prior year. Bonds outstanding in the gold of about 420,000. So the water fund is healthy and they are being able to fund reserves and pay for capital improvements and put funds away for future projects. Sewer fund, same story. There was no rate change in the current year. There was a rate increase, or there was an increase in revenues due to the sale sewer availability charge in the current year. Sewer expenses were up a little bit, mostly due to that change in the net pension liability, which does impact those funds as they are on the full accrual basis of accounting. But they did still operate in excess of a little over $220,000 throughout the year, so their cash as well in the first column there in the blue has about 1.8 million, up about 325,000 from the prior year, and they have bonds outstanding of about 711,000. So they are trending in the right direction as they've been able to add to their cash reserves since 2017 and continue to pay down those debt payments. And then the stormwater fund did have a rate increase in 2022, and there's about 215,000 in that fund for future capital needs and future projects. And just a brief summary there, the general fund unassigned and committed fund balance of $2,042,000 represents about 68% of the 2022 general fund expenditures. The general tax levy generated about 49% of the governmental revenues coming in, while the LGA contributed about 13%. The fire department has reserves of a deficit of $38,000. Included in the capital project fund balance is $257,000 for fire capital equipment. Revolving loan funds have outstanding balances of about $124,000 and about $328,000 available in cash for economic development loans. City capital project fund reserves just under 2.1 million, including that fire capital. Total debt outstanding decreased to 4.4 million, excluding the assisted living bonds, and then the water, sewer, stormwater funds are generating sufficient cash flow to fund capital needs and service debt and build reserves for future infrastructure needs. And then the city did have maintained accurate records of all city funds and adequate supporting documentations for any of our transactions that we tested during the year, so your accounting records throughout the year are in very good standing. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
I think you answered all mine the other day, we had the meeting there, so. You got any, Josh,
No, everything looks good.
Brent?
Nothing here.
All right. Thank you once again. Thank you for your services.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome to stay around for the rest of the meeting if you'd like.
Got two more this week.
See you later.
Two more of these to do. All right, that was our audit presentation. Next up will be Dave Brown Associate, Mike Rubani, talking to us about capital planning workshop. Okay, let's see what this says, Stephanie. This is what we're at. Okay, Mike, what do you got for us?
I'm here for a couple of different items tonight, but I think the first one you mentioned was setting up a workshop.
Yeah.
If you recall, council commissioned me to work on a capital financial plan model, and we've kind of gotten to the point where we're ready for that workshop. So we went and we've done a comparative analysis with the selected cities, put the model together. I was kind of waiting on the 22 audit before I finished, and Carla was good enough to get me a draft of that in advance. We've had a staff level meeting already, and so now the next step is to arrange a workshop with you. I would prefer to have a work session outside of a regular council meeting night if you're willing. It will take us an hour and a half minimum, and potentially a couple of hours. So I want you as fresh as I can get you. I was supposed to suggest Wednesdays that might be available, and I have Wednesday, May 3rd, actually next week available, if that works, but we can push it off as long as you want. I'm on your timetable. I just would let you know that I am ready to continue.
Josh?
Yeah, I think that should work for me.
Brian?
It's fine.
Get the pain over with as early as we can.
Pain?
2 hours of sitting through all the dumb stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not Andrew. I wish he was still here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is there a time that council would prefer that day?
It's already on there for
Looks like we'll
here
make
at
it, we got May
5:30.
3rd, 5:30 to 7:30.
5:30.
That's what's on our,
That'll take place at Dawn Under.
is that where it is?
We can do it. No matter what.
I'll bring refreshments.
That works for me for sure.
All right, so I guess we got that set, Mike.
Yep. So I don't know if I'm next on the agenda.
I don't know,
We need a motion on that.
Oh, we need a motion, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve for next
I'll
Wednesday.
second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That
Yeah, he's
carries.
up next for the public hearing on geotech business subsidy.
All right, let's see, public hearing, geotech. A public hearing has been scheduled for the adoption of a business subsidy for Geotech LLC in excess of $150,000 as required by Minnesota statute 116J.993 through 116J.995. The purpose of the public hearing will be to receive public comment regarding proposed subsidy. Mike Lubani is in attendance to answer any questions, so I will close the regular meeting right now. Open the public hearing is open. Any written or oral comments come in, Cheryl? None. Anybody here have any oral comments they want? You need anything to tell us anything quick, Mike, or?
Well, I generally do give a bit of a presentation, but I'm wondering if you want me to skip all that.
You can go ahead.
All right, well, if you don't mind, just at least for the, are you recording this for the general public? Okay, for at least for their benefit, we gotta cover a few things. Okay, so tonight we actually have basically two purposes in our public hearing. One is to consider the approval of a TIF district to assist this business. And then the other one is for the business subsidy, which is a fancy way of saying for the development contract itself. All we're planning on doing is isolating the new property taxes that'll be generated by this 105,000 square foot manufacturing facility, isolating those taxes and then putting it back into the project for a project that wouldn't otherwise occur, at least otherwise occur in Stewartville. The manner in which that property tax will be used is pay-as-you-go, meaning developer fronts all costs, takes on all risk. All we are agreeing to do is to capture and isolate those new taxes as they come in, if they're paid, and if they are, under the terms of the development contract, reimburse them for a period of time. And I'll get into the details of that in a minute. In your packet, you should also have a draft of the TIF plan itself.
Just a second, Mike.
Yep.
TIF hearing
The first one
next.
is the business subsidy.
We're just,
And
we're gonna do another public hearing after this public.
Well, but they're all connected, so why don't I just present it once and then we could open the other one,
All right.
if that
All right.
serves.
So that work, Cheryl? Yep.
Yeah, okay. So in your packet is the TIF plan, a draft of TIF plan. I just point out on the cover page, the first thing it talks about is modification of a development program. Just on a technical side, when a city creates a TIF district, there has to be an underlying planning area where you create this municipal development district. And yours is numbered number 1. That's why these districts are numbered 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, all the way up to 1-13 now. And the reason we have to modify that underlying municipal development district is this project is part of an annexation. So while our municipal development district was coterminous with city limits are about to change. And so the modification incorporates that new land into that development district. The TIF district itself is a economic development TIF district. There's different types. The calculation and the formulas are all the same, but each type of TIF district has a different set of rules. This is economic development. Generally restricted only to manufacturing and industrial uses. Of course, that's what we're dealing with here. It's also especially for businesses that could have otherwise located out of state. And we tick that box as well. It's not a required box, but it's just an added box. The company had secured a new product line, I think in Virginia. And very easily could have decided to build there, but they decided to build here in Stewartville with this TIF assistance. And it just makes this a textbook project for the use of this TIF. Economic development TIF is maximum of 9 collections, 9 years. So what happens is the project gets built this year or substantially complete this year. That's not year 1. Next year, the taxes don't go up yet. That's not year 1, it's the year after. So 2025 will be year 1, and then it'll be 8 more years after that. In the TIF plan itself, we have a budget set. And if we look at the total payments, once we retain 10% that you're allowed to retain up to 10 for administrative purposes, not meaning you're gonna spend it, but you are allowed to retain it at least. Total net revenue after that retainage is $3.1 million, and this is based on an increase of $15 million in value. If we take out the interest expense of that money over those 9 years, the present value is worth about $2.47 million. So if we make these payments over the 9 years, and they come in just as shown here, they'll receive 2.47 million plus the interest, which would total to 3.149 million. Now, if tax increments come in faster than what we expect, and after year 7, we've paid off this 2.8 million in interest, deal's over. If we get to year 9 and we have not yet fully paid off the contract, too bad. End the deal, the tax base becomes available to the city the very next year. Which leads me to one of the other exhibits in the packet. You don't need to turn to it, but I'll just mention it. Exhibit 4, when this does become available to the tax base 9 years from now or less, depending on how payments go, we could see all other things being equal. You know, there's other things in the city that could cause taxes to go up or down, there's all sorts of variables, but all other things being equal, once this project is available to the tax base, we'll increase our the tax rate will drop 3 points as a result of this project. So that's what I would call a sizable increase to the city's tax base, which is another good reason why they are elected to build here. So specific to the business subsidy, company is going to agree to construct this manufacturing facility. We're hoping for them to be substantially completed by 2024. Now, recognize 25 is year 1 for the TIF payment. So if we're only partially completed in 23 and we only have a partial increase in value in 23, that means that year 1 TIF payment might not be worth the full amount. But that's just the nature of the way the property taxes work. There's some other little tidbits in here that are pretty standard. I should mention that the property that's being annexed and targeted for this development had been enrolled in the Green Acres program. That was a program where ag landowners, when they were near cities and they were seeing the land values go up and up and up, and they were feeling pressure to sell their land for development because they couldn't afford the taxes based on a commercial use because they were using it for ag land, this would allow them to keep their taxes low. I mention this because when we go from a Green Acres, now it's in city limits and we're gonna make a development, the rule is you can't do a TIF district there for 5 years, except if you're gonna use qualified manufacturing. And that's exactly what this will be. And to meet qualified manufacturing, 90% of all the employees at this facility have to have a wage that's at least 160% of the federal minimum wage for the duration of the contract. But that sounds like that's like a lot, but it really isn't. That's only $11.60 an hour. But as part of the business subsidy, the statute that says whenever a subsidy is over $150,000, there has to be a job creation requirement and a wage goal. They're agreeing within 2 years, once the doors are open for business, within 2 years of that date, they're gonna create 12 new full-time equivalent jobs with an average wage of $20, excluding benefits, $20 an hour. So much higher than what is being mentioned here. I think the company expects to do more hiring than that, but when we do a contract, we want to make sure we're putting in job goals that we are comfortable they're going to hit. We want them to be successful. If they fail, the law requires any assistance to be repaid back to the government plus interest. So we just don't want that to happen. They'll need to submit paid invoices of eligible site improvement expenses equaling that 2.4 million that I mentioned from the budget. This could be parking, grading, foundations, anything ground level and below is eligible. And usually something of this size, you're not gonna have any trouble coming up with those expenses. And then again, what the city's agreeing to do is simply do a pay-as-you-go contract. So our first payment would be August 1st of 2025. And would go every 6 months, August 1st, February 1st. You don't technically have to budget for that. It basically comes in and comes out. Carla's gonna create a separate TIF fund in your books, and you just do what you do according to the contract. So you don't have to build it into your levy resolution, is my point. Right, okay. All right, now we have to also mention as part of the business subsidy, there are other subsidies being involved. We have a potential $230,000 forgivable loan provided by the Minnesota Investment Fund, that's state dollars. And then also the Minnesota Job Creation Fund, an additional $800,000. So that also would be part of the business subsidy, but not necessarily part of our development contract with the company. But it had to be mentioned for tonight. And my final point, before we go to questions, is because the annexation is not yet complete or official, The two resolutions that are in your packet after the public hearing is over, the one that approves the TIF district, and the one that approves the business subsidy, cannot take action tonight. You have to wait till that annexation is complete, bring it to the meeting after that, and then you can approve those things at that time, right? And then you just need to make me aware of when that happens, because then I can get the TIF plan registered with the state and so forth. And with that, Mayor, I'll stop and take questions.
So will you have us down for approval resolution tonight?
No,
Okay.
nothing. We'll bring him back in hopefully 2 weeks.
Any questions from the table for the public? Mike does a good job covering
I was just gonna say, I appreciate you breaking it down like that.
I felt like I took 10 minutes of your life and never did that.
I'd rather, I can give up 10 minutes for the legal. I like the legal side of things.
All right, then I guess we're gonna close the public hearing on this. And as long as we can't move forward with the resolution, we'll move on to the next public hearing, correct?
Correct.
And that is Geotech tax increment financing resolution. Public hearing's been scheduled for the establishment of a tax increment financing district number 1-13, West Municipal Development District number 1, to adopt a tax increment financing plan relating therefore under the provisions of Minnesota statute section 469.174 to 469.1794. Mike McMonty is still here. He's gonna present the TIF plan to us, which he's done a great job already, and answer any questions the council or public may have. So I'll close the regular meeting, open the public hearing once again. Any original roll? None? Anybody here have any questions? Mike, do you have any more to add to it?
I do have about another 10 minutes, Mayor. No, I'm just kidding.
We're here to listen to you. Okay, so that being said, and we cannot vote on this one yet tonight either, we'll close this public hearing. We're back to the regular meeting. We thank all you in attendance for coming from Geotech, Carl, and Mike for you being here. I guess we'll see you again at least on
Yep, about a week.
Wednesday, May 3rd.
And just one last point, no issuance of building permits until those resolutions are adopted, please.
Okay,
Perfect.
we can do that.
All right.
You want me back in 2 weeks too?
No.
I don't think you need to be, Carl, it's gonna, we're gonna, it's all been covered and everything will be
Glad I
good.
could answer everybody's questions.
Yeah.
Carl, you guys gonna start like ASAP then, or what's the plan?
Should be starting summer of 2023 with that, assuming all the paperwork gets done and approved by everybody, then we want to start in the summer. We have to figure out that.
All right. Well, like Craig said before the end, you're welcome to stay if you want to hear the rest of it. Or you can also leave.
Sounds good.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have a good night.
All right, next up on, the meeting tonight is Homestead County Attorney's Office Prosecution Agreement. Attached, please find the prosecution service agreement is submitted by Homestead County Attorney's Office. The County Attorney's Office will provide prosecution services for violations of state law or municipal ordinances occurring within the city of Stewartville, which are petty misdemeanors or gross misdemeanors. As per state statutes for compensation, the city shall pay over to the county all fines or penalties collected for the violations. The term of this contract shall be from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2024, unless earlier terminated by either party upon 60 days of written notice. So, on the table for the council to think about is to approve the prosecution service agreement for 23-24 as submitted. I hope you read through the agreement.
Make a motion to accept it.
Do we have a motion to accept? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion?
Are they gonna actually prosecute or what?
Of course, the prosecutor, if something's written,
Yeah, if they
you
get
gotta get the citation issued, that's where you're
the
gonna.
citation gets written, then the attorney will prosecute.
Well, wasn't that long ago, we were told that they write citations and the attorney don't prosecute.
Well, you hear that sometimes too, but I think the bigger
Pretty,
issue right
they
now
might
is-
let someone out of a parking ticket or something, and if it was Hennepin County or Ramsey County, if it was a murder, or a drive-by shooting, or a car theft, then they would just let you go.
Right.
But that's not down here yet.
Not yet. So, does that answer your questions?
No, I'm just asking, cause I mean, I just thought you hear both sides, so I just wanna make sure the county attorneys actually know that what they're sending out to us, that they're actually gonna prosecute. Oh yeah, they will.
We're getting to be pretty good.
Well, you know, it doesn't mean every single case, I mean, they might read it and not think that the elements of the crime fit prosecution, I mean, that's just common practice in law, right? I don't know, I've never heard any complaint on that, have you heard of anything official? I mean, I haven't.
All right, that being said, we have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. That'll take us on to the next item, which is Bear Cave Amphitheater Bathroom Concessions. We've got some bids here. Material and labor proposals were received and reviewed for the construction of the Bear Cave Amphitheater Concession Bathroom Facility. Below are the selected contractors per staff recommendation. Cost to date for engineering design is $9,121.53. Did you get, oh, you did get a plumbing one there?
Yes. Did each of these categories go out for bid by themselves, like that specified?
So the one thing that we did when we went out for bid like this, then we didn't have the big bidding process that we had to go through, and the other thing with breaking out the labor from the materials, then we don't pay tax on the materials as well as
Oh, yeah.
going forward on that too, so that does help us out as well.
15 categories, Jesus.
Yeah, and some of them were split into, they did in separate categories. So then they said, well, I'm not honoring that bid if I only get part of it. So we had to go through, and Carla and I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out, go through all these and make it the best. So one guy might have looked like he was low bid, but he might not have been because it was lumped in with somebody else in this other one.
Says you get a lot of bidders?
Quite a few of them right there.
Yeah, I mean, most of them, we had 3 or 4 per.
That's good.
Even Amazon bid.
Yeah, well, glad he lied.
That's how big we are. They're looking for us.
Well, and the other thing to note on that, you can see at the bottom, there's a 2% KBS discount. As we were looking at that and kind of going through all of the materials part of it, where we have materials that were broke up between different projects and different portions of it from different companies. KBS, I said, you know, I kind of went back to them and we're looking at, for the most part, they were very on cue with everything, and everything was very well spelled out. And I went back to them, I said, if we, you know, because they were individually, and they wouldn't charge us anymore if we took each individual piece. I went back and said, hey, if we took all of those pieces and used materials from you guys, which would be for us, you know, actually a benefit, if they would do anything, or if there would be any difference in pricing, then that's where they said they could do a 2% discount for us as well. I know it's not huge, but it does end up saving money and going back into things that we can do.
These are all the bids, which we can share with you if you question and you want to go through and look at them.
I'm comfortable with this, I'll make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion to approve the list in front of us. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have a second. Edge will be doing sewer stuff, sewer line hookup stuff.
That's in there.
Yeah, but that's Edge doing that.
Huh?
Edge is
Edge,
doing that.
correct.
Okay, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. When are we gonna start, Sean?
Tomorrow morning. Well, contacting, we will be a while before we're turning dirt, because we cannot go for permits until we do this part of it. So we can't even, in the plumbing permit, they said could be a 6-week turnaround. So it's backward system we have where you have to have that before they can bid it, or before they can apply for the plumbing permit. So these guys have bid something that they don't even know if the permit's there for yet. But you have to know your contractors before you can even apply for it.
Once again, government comes through with flying colors.
All right, that'll take us out of general business into mayor's and council or administrative reports. So, tonight in the mayor's report, we'd like to send our sympathies to the families of Carl Creeder, Dale Wellick, Thomas Moan, Don Scheidenberg, Lyle Cradle Jr.,
Schmiedberg.
Schneeberg, there you go, thank you. Alice Strom, Mackenzie Swanson Larson, Steve Lowry, and Chet Daniels. We'd also like to send a happy birthday out to Bette Davis. And I wanna send with the council, a big congratulations out to my good friend, Ava Byer. Her DARE poster won #1 in the state. Whoa. In the state.
Get out of here.
Yep.
That's cool.
DARE is treating her to a Twins game where she'll throw out the first pitch.
Oh my God, that's really cool, man.
And I'm figuring she's gonna ask me to go with her.
Tell her to start practicing tomorrow. This could be embarrassing if it bounces.
All right, that's a big one
Wow.
for the whole state. National Library Week. Congrats to Nate and his great staff for being the best. Did you know you were the best, Nate?
I suspected, but I
Oh,
wasn't.
okay. Don't forget the annual Chicken Nick is this Saturday at the Legion. Must be nothing better, is that what? That's a good deal. Jeremiah, you in charge of that too?
I'm gonna be able to serve.
You gonna have your bunny outfit on?
No, no,
That's all I've got tonight. No, has anybody covered the administrator report? All right. I don't think anybody knows what administrator's absent tonight. Did you think it was awful quiet?
Where's that?
Administrator convention.
Oh, great.
That'll take us to finance director Carla.
You got the news from Andrew on the audit for 2022. And that's kind of getting all that stuff buttoned up, and then you're going to apply for the GFOA award for 2022, and we'll move forward. All sorts of fun stuff we've got going on with the TIFs and with the construction, so.
When do you think we're gonna hear about that? GFOA or?
I am not sure. We were checking, and I've sent an email off and gotten some different information, and hopefully in May we'll find out for sure what's going on, so.
Everything got sent in and everything, I hope. That'll take us to Public Works Director report. Hummer, Sean?
I will cover some of the, just since Jenna's not here, some of the reports on the CIP projects and stuff like that. CIP Fifth Avenue is moving, they're doing great. If weather would cooperate, obviously everyone knows that. The company has been, we had some issues with frozen water lines overnight. A guy drove an hour and a half in the middle of the storm. The response to get here to help take care of that, slept on wet garden hoses all night long and was bouncing from house to house doing it. Did as good a job as he could. Obviously, they started early and the mother is dragging on. They've been great to work with. The neighbors actually have been understanding, and it's going well so far. The wastewater plant, Joseph Company is working on the roof at the wastewater plant. The roof is completely off now. They've got a lot of the prep work done. They're gonna be pouring cement tomorrow, building the piers up or the bases of it, so they plan to be setting the roof within 2 weeks. So they're moving along fairly well there too. Things look, the word we're getting, everything looks pretty good underneath. We're gonna have some things that we're gonna have to do additionally on top of the motors that turn, the drums that stir the oxidation ditches. The fins on that have some wear on them. Now is the time. We got a guy coming to look at it tomorrow. This isn't part of Joseph Company's duties. This is just extra things we found underneath, so we got a guy coming to look at it to see about rebuilding them. Buying one would be 8 weeks before we could get it. Wouldn't even work because they'll have that all sealed up by then. So we're looking at having a guy rebuild into what we can do with it. So there will be some additional expense there, but now's the time while it's empty and you can get at the stuff to get everything modified and up and running good. The park signs are now up at Florence Park for the historical plaza. We don't have the signs put in tomorrow. The signs will get put in, but the stands that Jason built are up there now, so they can be seen. And then the goat update. He upped it to 39 goats are out there now, and they're chowing away.
Might be a good time to remind people that the dogs are gonna get zapped, we'll get up fences.
We did have somebody that their dog got in the fence like 3 times, and we did put a thing on Facebook that, you know, you need to have your dogs on a leash in the parks, you're supposed to anyway, to make sure that they do that. So, but everything's going good so far, and he keeps bringing more in. He just is introducing them slowly so that it's not a shock to throw them in an environment they're not used to all at once.
And Dalton and Shane have done another, they passed, so congratulations to them.
We got and that worked really well going through, so future people, obviously we're looking for people when we hire with commercial driver's licenses. You don't always find the best candidates that have that, so down there now, we found something that's a lot cheaper when we do have to send our people.
Where
And
did
it's
you
worked
go
out
for the
well.
course?
Down in Iowa, Mason City.
Mason, you went to that Mason City?
Yep. The elevator uses them also. It's just, everyone else was at least
Yeah.
$3,000, and these guys were $900, I think, to put on and take the test.
Good. All right, any questions for Public Works Director? None, thank you. So he kind of covered the city engineer's report also, so. And then we got the next one up is Library Director Nate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm truly touched that you knew that it was National Library Week. That one almost always sneaks past me, so. Above and beyond.
Are you saying you forgot or what?
I knew late last week that it was gonna, you know,
turn her over with you.
it's like your wife's anniversary, it's like your anniversary. You remember it just in time, you know?
If you're lucky, yeah.
So above and beyond what's in my report, we are going to we're gonna have a blood drive at the library, through the Mayo Clinic starting at 7 in the morning on Monday, May 15th. Looking forward to that as like a recurring every 3 months thing going forward. Summer reading is coming along at our, when I meet with you in May, I should have our complete schedule for the summer. It is part of this, all this stuff on my desk is part of our summer planning right now. So we have a lot of kits planned. I wanna say how much I respect and appreciate Public Works, and particularly Sean's being willing to work with our weirdo idea of construction week at the library. We're gonna be doing that in it's gonna be July
18th, wasn't it?
Yeah, the week of July 18th, we're gonna be doing touch a truck, and Sean and his guys are gonna bring machines down so kids can have like a photo booth in front of all the machines. We have a construction themed story time, and then two of our coolest kits that we'll ever do that week are construction theme, a crane kit, and a pneumatic lift kit that is unbelievable what you can do with cardboard and doweling, it's just gonna be an awesome week that'll hopefully kind of also tie in with our library expansion, yes, but the summer planning is coming along really well. I don't have, the one thing that's really holding me back so far is I really want a Rockstar kit to kick everything off on June 5th, and I'm getting a lot of B+ ideas, but the A, I know I need an A on this, so.
So you have to go out and just find those all over, or is there like a one place that you go to and you can find all these kits under one roof?
No, I got 3 books here that like I'm going through. The construction week stuff, is like the pneumatic one, which is like super cool, is, that one's here, and then,
What Nate doesn't realize is I'm looking at this as a job fair for future public works employees.
yeah, I mean, honestly, so like 2 years ago, we did Spy Week, so that was like a CIA recruitment kind of thing. Last year we did Magic Week, and which is like more for future Vegas employees, and then now I want to get the people closer to home.
Looks like your art show went over well.
The art show was really great. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to swing by, it's just so fun. We got submissions from, the Stewartville Care Center, from, just normal folks, the Tiger Tots, the middle school, the high school, adults, kids, somewhere around like 5% of Stewartville submitted a piece of art, which is like unreal. Super cool. We totally ran out of space for art, but I think it's.
Who has to judge them, or don't you do that?
I don't judge them. Because I submitted art too, so
I thought you said first prize that one time, told it was a new Chevy pickup.
So next year you're gonna have to do the tinier art project since you ran out of room?
I think, we're gonna definitely have to go thimble size next year.
Alright. The meeting, I hope went well with the architectural firm.
Yep, they asked a lot of good questions and we hopefully gave them a lot of good answers.
Good. Alright. Any other questions for Nate? Oh, no, thanks. Thank you, Nate. Well, no fire chief tonight, no pool director just yet, that'll be coming up. That takes us to committee commission, board reports, chamber of commerce. In the packet, EDHRA. We'll get the minutes right in there. We got a meeting coming up, a big one coming up here, don't we? Joy and Sandra keep us on our toes.
You can let Josh get that report.
Yeah. Finance, we looked at the audit and we got to see it again in the library.
Nothing.
We meet next month.
Park board,
The last meeting, the minutes are in there and we have one come up in May too, I believe.
personnel,
Met tonight,
plan and zoning,
nothing.
public safety. Should we mention Jason's laid up a little bit, or?
Yeah, so Deputy
not see
Owens
it
had a
now.
little mishap and, fell through his garage, or his attic in his garage, but nothing broke, just very, very sore, but he'll be out for a few days.
So you might see a different face around town for a few days here. Public Works. Ready? Roll call. Transit Advisory Committee. Communications none. Open mic. Joey, do you want the open mic? I guess